Joaquin Numanza Buckley.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy Joaquin Numanza Buckley. Welcome back to another episode of Buck What You Heard. Hey, if you already new to my channel, you already know what to do, man. Hit that subscribe button right now, and let's get to it, right? You already know, man, we got a big card this weekend coming up. You got UFC 317. You got Ilia Moving versus Charles Oliveira, right? You got Ilia Moving, man, who has vacated his title to move up to 155, and also with Charles Oliveira trying to reclaim his title back. Now, a lot of people said that Islam was really trying to get up out of there before Topuria got there, but obviously, man, we didn't want to see Islam, put down another 145, so with that being said, he felt like he needed a new challenge by going up to 170. But I do feel as if this is a great fight between two dynamic, complete fighters, with Ilia Moving having great hands in his boxing and with Charles Oliveira having great Muay Thai. But one thing about these two fighters is, right, that we know what Charles Oliveira can do on the ground. Now, Ilia Moving said he can get busy on the ground too, but we just ain't never seen it in the octagon, right? So I know that Ilia Moving has the power necessary, right? Because we done seen what he did to Volk. We done seen what he did to Max Holloway, right? And the thing is, boy got crazy power, but is that going to translate to 155? I think it will. And the thing about, that power, we done seen Charles Oliveira crumble plenty of times, man, against Michael Chandler, against Justin Gaethje, against Dustin Poirier. But at the same time, after he done got crumbled, he came back and choked every single one of those guys out. Senseless. So my thing is, if Ilia Moving is able to catch Charles Oliveira and drop him, what is he able to do if the fight goes down to the ground? So that's going to be the real challenge. That's going to be the real, what if, right? And if Ilia Moving can really show that he is just as slick on the ground as he is on the feet, Ilia Moving he really going to be that dude, right? He really going to be dropping roses in that cage because, like I said, he be sending dudes to the king for real. But with Charles Oliveira, that's no easy task, man. Like I said, we done seen my man get hurt before countless times and still come back, victorious. And with Charles Oliveira, he ain't no little 155. That's a big dude. And I don't know if y'all seen this photo with my boy from the Goonies. I ain't trying to be funny. little Rojas Jr., looking like the sloth. I really feel like, he took a photo with both these guys. He made Ilia Moving look small, but Charles Oliveira made him look like a kid. And I'm talking about Junior. And you could just see the size difference. So I think Ilia Moving is going to be real shocked when they really kind of meet each other, because I don't really think he kind of prepared with guys that are of the stature of a Charles Oliveira, right? Of a size of a Charles Oliveira. So when he sees him, he going to see that's going to be a size discrepancy for sure. But I will have to say this. Buddy said he ain't scared of nothing. He said a dude come up to his wife, and say something crazy. He said, look, he don't care if that boy got 30 extra pounds on him. He's like, at the same time, that chin the same size, right? As long as I can touch your chin, I can win. That's pretty much what he said. And I do agree with him. All that size don't mean nothing if I'm able to touch that chin of yours and knock you out and put you unconscious. But at the same time, this ain't just boxing, right? This ain't just kickboxing. This ain't just striking, and your size does play a part when you're able to hold, when you're able to grab, and when you're able to, take guys to the ground. So with that being said, Ilia Moving going to really have to show, his versatile game if he really got one. And this is the perfect matchup to make within the lightweight division right now. But if Topuria is able to grab this title and Islam ends up taking the title from JDM, this boy Topuria said he gonna move on.
Becomes the welterweight world champion, for sure I'm gonna push for that shot also, and I will move to the welterweight division.
He said he gonna hunt down Islam, and I don't know if y'all know this, but nigga, this ain't never happened before. Somebody to grab a title at one division, then a second division, and then move up and try to take a third. This would be the first time ever. Now, we didn't have multiple fighters fought in multi-divisions before, right? Now, that ain't nothing new. You know, you done had guys like, you know, BJ Penn to fight in multiple divisions, right? You done had people like what's a good name to bring up? Frankie Edgar, right? That done fought in multiple divisions, right? Like 3 of them. Shoot, RIP to my man Anthony Rumble Johnson, right? My man fought in 4 different weight classes: 170, 185, 205, and heavyweight, right? Like, we done seen these things before, but you talking about doing it at the highest level and trying to claim another belt. You only have 4 people within the UFC that then took 2 of them things, right? And then held them simultaneously. But you gonna have a person that's trying to easily make his way up to go to 170 and grab 3 of them. That's gonna be wild. And I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I think Ilia Topuria, he already pushing it, right? Like, I already know Ilia Topuria crazy because he said he'll box Canelo. He said he'll get Canelo up out of there. It's wild work, man. Like, and trust me, I think Ilia Topuria has the best boxing in the UFC right now. You know, next to myself. But I feel like Ilia Topuria has really shown, you know, his combination game is crazy. His footwork is great, and how he's able to kind of pursue guys, you know, and land damage and look for those kill shots, right? Is far none, you know, some of the best I ever seen. But the claim that you can go up and not only just take a 3rd belt, but go out and then also box Canelo. You know, I ain't gonna lie to you, my man reaching for the stars, but I can't be mad at him. I'll be doing the same thing, you know? So with that being said, you know, I'm very intrigued to follow Topuria's career and where he's able to go. But he got to first look at the man that's in front of him, and that's Charles Oliveira. Don't be talking about all the extra stuff before, you know, you get there. You got to look at exactly what you got ahead of you and make sure that you submit that first. Make sure that you execute on that game plan first, right? Because you can have all those big dreams if you want to. It take one person, man, to eliminate all of that, right? So 317 is a massive card. It is big. You also got a massive fight with the flyweight division, right? You got Pantoja versus Kai France. It's a cool fight. You know, Kai done did his thing. You know, he done got a couple good knockouts, right, to put himself in position to fight Pantoja. But I really think this is going to be a dominant win from Pantoja. I don't really see Kai France really kind of hurting Pantoja or even being able to, you know, touch him. Because Pantoja, we already know, bro, he a little pit bull, you know? He a bully. And I'm not saying like Pantoja got great striking or anything, but I really feel like, you know, his aggressiveness, right, will put, you know, Kai France on his heels and have him fighting backwards, which I don't think Kai is good at. And then once he start to move backwards, you know, Pantoja gonna get him up against the cage, clinch up against him, pick him up, slam him down, bro. And, you know, yet again, it's going to be a wrap, dog. So I could really see Pantoja, man, making a real dominant run, you know, and really, you know, showing people why he's one of the best flyweights in the division right now. And it's unfortunate because Pantoja ain't really got no name, you know. He's still not, you know, a massive star within the division. And he's a champion, right? And it's sad to say this, you know what I mean? But my man said shit, he still got a second job. It's crazy, bro. You UFC champion is wild. But with that being said, I think him being able to keep putting on great performances, people can't do nothing but respect you, right? People can't do nothing but look at your fights, man, and look at all the work that you've been putting in and just, yet again, just give you your flowers, right? So on top of that, right, you got another great fight and Brandon Royval, #1 contender, versus Joshua Van. That's a big fight right there, right? And this is a big leap for Joshua Van, you know? My man just fought a couple weeks ago, right? Getting a very dominant win over Bruno Silva and really kind of showing up and showing out on that. Really like showing his pretty much how he's been getting better, his improvements in the game. Because Joshua Van, he done took a couple losses, but he didn't let that slow him down. For the past 2 years, this kid has been the most active guy on the roster. And you seeing already now, he fighting a #1 contender and Brandon Royval. So this is actually an awesome fight to really kind of watch because it really shows that, you know, the UFC is trying to push these young guys. The UFC is really trying to find the next star for the flyweight division, and Joshua Van can be that next guy. But he got a tough fight in front of him with Brandon Royval, you know. And with Brandon Royval, he been there before. He done fought the best in the world, you know, from Pantoja, from Brandon Morono, from Pantoja, from Morono. Those are dope fights that my man have been able to, you know, display. And he's been in there with only the best guys in the world. So now Joshua Van has to, you know, really kind of show where his level's at, you know, try to really show the world and expose, you know, how great he is. And with Brandon Royval, you know, he really just got to, you know, show like, hey, bro, I've been here before. I done this before, you know what I mean? And this ain't nothing brand new. And I just think that, you know, Brandon Royval taking on this challenge and taking on this risk, right? It only does him good. It shows the UFC that, you know, he is willing to go out there, duke it out with anybody in the world and put himself back in a position, right, to go after that belt, you know, because you got to give people an opportunity in order to run them numbers up, right? So, you know, shout out to both of these guys. But if Joshua Van is able to get this done, bro, I'm telling y'all, like, he has a lot of potential to become, you know, a superstar for the flyweight division. And with Pantoja, right, this is also another opportunity, right, for you to show and be able to prove to the world how dominant of a champion you are. But yet again, it's all about the numbers. You always want to make the best, exciting fights happen, you know what I mean, at the right time. And I'm excited for the flyweight division to be able to get some new names and some new blood up there, because that's what a lot of people been waiting on. You know, you have the Amir Albazis, right? You have the Ty Shura, you know, who both they kind of lost, you know, and they lost to these guys like Brandon Morono and Brandon Royval. But at the same time, right, you also have these guys at the lower tier who I feel like can move up, right? Who can also challenge for these spots. All you got to do is give them the opportunity. So shout out to Brandon Royval for giving Joshua Van an opportunity, man. I'm excited to see how that fight goes down. Hey, with that being said, right, I won't be out there at UFC 317 in Vegas. You guys already know that the UFC Expo is out there, you know, where we got all the fan engagement, man, all the fighters out there. But I will be in Chicago, all right, at the Chicago Wrigley Stadium. We're going to have a watch party for UFC 317. It's going to be open to the public at 7 o'clock to 7:45. And then after that, man, we got a VIP party that's going to start at 7:45 all the way up until the end of the fight. So, you know, y'all already know me, man. We're going to go live watching the fights. You know, we're going to be live for the main card, and we're just going to be reacting and just pretty much just talking about the fights. So if you out there in Chicago, you can be able to see your boy at the Chicago Wrigley Stadium. I'm so excited, man, to meet all the fans and all the people that support me in my career. But yeah, man, y'all already know, man, pop out and enjoy the show with me. There's another thing that I want to talk about real quick, right, before we leave. Dana has now became a boxing promoter. And my thing is Dana good or bad for boxing, right? And now we seen what Dana has been able to do with the UFC and how he's been able to increase pretty much the love and pretty much the fan base in the market for mixed martial arts, right? And the thing about Dana White, he's been doing this for a long time. But what people fail to realize is he didn't start off trying to promote for MMA. He was always wanted to be a boxer promoter. And his way of being able to practice and him being able to kind of do something different, he involved himself in MMA and was able to create a platform and create a promotion that has never been seen before, right? That has become so massive and become such a big place for all fighters, right, to try to achieve their dream of becoming a UFC fighter, right, and becoming a UFC champion. So Dana has done all the hustle in the world, but now I believe my man true dreams and came true of being a boxing promoter. And I feel like with Dana, you know, he really not going to put his name behind nothing that he don't believe in. And with this fight between Bud and Canelo, this is the biggest fight that he could be a part of, right? This is one of the best fights that Dana could promote. And with that being said, I believe Dana is great for boxing. You know, because it's unfortunate that you see a lot of boxers, man, that just don't want to fight each other, right? You got some of the best in the world that go out there, have these undefeated records, man, go out there knocking out these so-called journeymans and stuff like that. But and as soon as they, you know, get put up or matched up against one another, they talking about, oh, I need more bread. No, I need more money. I need to do this. I need to do that, right? But the real reason why they don't want to fight is because they don't want to lose that O. And the one thing that Dana has established within the UFC is, like, just because you lose don't mean that your career ends, right? And I feel like that dynamic within the UFC is a beautiful thing because, you know, at the end of the day, you got winners and you got losers, right? And if you end up losing a fight, it's not going to end your career like it does in boxing. And there's so many different examples that I can give in boxing where people just felt like damn, you know what I'm saying? I done took this loss, I done took this L, and I'm not going to be able to become a Floyd Mayweather, right? I'm not going to be able to become, you know, a person like, what's another great undefeated fighter? Andre Ward, you know? Like my thing is some of the greatest boxers that we know back in the day, right? Like Muhammad Ali, Marvin Hagler, you know, Hearns, Sugar Ray Leonard, they all took L's, but at the same time, they all put on great fights, right? And that's what people care about the most. Even though people love an undefeated fighter, they love a fighter more, right? They love a person that's gonna put everything out there on the line for the fans and put on an exciting fight. Because just because you undefeated, you know, and just because, you know, you never took a loss, don't mean you an exciting fighter to watch, you know? Like, you got too many guys out there in boxing that's not willing to duke it out, and they getting paid all the money. They really going out there to get paid some big bread, and they don't even go out there to even try to put on great fights for the fans. And I think that's crazy. So with that being said, I think Dana is an excellent person, man, to kind of step into boxing and kind of change that dynamic. Because when you put up the best guys against one another and you make these guys fight and you put on the best fights that you can make at that time, that's only going to be a win for the fans, right? Because no matter who loses, we win. We get to see the best fight made at this time. And if you would have had, you know, Dana being able to promote fights, you know, back in the day when it comes to boxing, you know, maybe we would have seen Floyd versus Manny a long time ago, right? Maybe we would have seen Errol Spence and Bud Crawford fight before the car accident and everything of that nature, right? And then, you know, and not trying to put Errol Spence out there, but he's still a great boxer. But we haven't seen him come back since that loss. And to me, that's wild, right? Because he is a very talented boxer. He is a very talented person in the ring, you know. But yet again, those L's and those losses, it changes a lot of guys' careers and dynamic when it comes to the business, you know. So I do truly believe that Dana is one of the best things that can happen to boxing right now, just to try to change the culture and try to change the mentality of a lot of these boxers that are out there. Because at the end of the day, when you undefeated and when you making all this money, you got to fight the next best guy, right? And you can't allow yourself to try to keep your O, but not try to fight, you know, the guys that are going to really challenge you, you know, because people can see that. Like, people going to already recognize. And what I love about, you know, this whole interaction between Canelo and Bud, right? And you guys see them, they having dinner dates, you know, they out here, you know, pushing each other, you know what I'm saying, in the press conference, right? A lot of this interaction back and forth. But I love how Canelo said, bro, who have you fought, right? He was like, name one person. And I'm not gonna lie to you, you know what I mean? If you a boxing head, for sure, but the name that Bud gave, I didn't know who that was. Like, who you talking about? I thought you would at least name Errol Spence out of everybody, right? But the name that he gave, I didn't know who that was. So I feel like that is a dynamic with the resume that a lot of these guys don't fight other names. And in order to really kind of push, in order to become one of the best, right? Which these guys are already the best. Bud is already the best, pound for pound, for sure. But let's try to find these names as well in order to grow. Because there's too many fights out there that we can make and that we can watch, and we can see these guys go up against each other. But yet again, man, that old kind of slow things down. Being undefeated kind of, you know, messes up the business side for a lot of these fighters, because yet again, we seeing a lot of fights not be made because of it, right? Because these guys are scared to lose, you know. And I just hope, in all honesty, that this fight is going to be great. you have Canelo, who definitely has lost before, but you know, you see his style, you see how he work. You know, I think with Bud, you know, he's a technician. You know, he gonna be using a lot of jabs and a lot of, you know, just patience, right, in this fight to collect as much data on Canelo, right? And the same thing with Canelo, he not an early starter either. But I feel like as the fight goes on and they collect as much information on each other as possible, you're going to see them guys open up a little bit more, and we're going to see a lot more, you know, car crashes, as we call it in MMA, or we're going to see a lot of evasion from Bud, right? But at the same time, I just hope that with all this build up behind the fight, from the tours that they doing, you know, you see them with Shaq, with Tom Brady, right? You see them with Kevin Hart at Fanatics, you know, like you see these guys, they putting on a great presser for this fight, man, to get everybody tuned in. So I just hope both of these guys, they show up the night that they supposed to fight, and it really kind of just remind people that when the greats fight, you get historic fights made, right? And these are the fights that are going to be remembered, you know what I mean, for a lifetime. So I just can't wait until that fight happens. I can't wait until them boys go out there and do what they do. But yeah, man, I feel like right now, man, you can see a lot of change within the business of not just boxing, but in MMA. Because now you have TKO mixing it in with mixed martial arts, right? So with TKO being involved with the UFC, I see a lot of great opportunity coming for us fighters, right? Who, once we get done with the UFC, we can kind of transition over to boxing, you know, because one thing I would tell people all the time is that, you know, even though mixed martial arts is difficult, you know, I think the only thing that is more traumatic about what we do is the injuries on our joints, right? Because of the grappling, because of the back and forth, you know, cage and the clinch work that we put ourselves through. But I really feel like our transition over to boxing could be a lot easier because we haven't took the same type of trauma to the brain, you know? But with that being said, it's not going to be an easy or the easiest transition because you gotta learn how to box. Right, you gotta learn how to move your feet. You gotta learn how to keep your hands up because, with that being said, now you're gonna be taking more shots to the head. You know, so it's important for a lot of guys if they think about transitioning over to boxing, right, to really take it seriously. You know, because boxing is not an easy sport to get into. It's not an easy field to learn. But if you're a guy that has been, you know, involved and a guy that's been around the coach and a guy that's been training the right way, then yeah, bro, go ahead, take those challenges, you know, because like I said, there's been a lot of good names that have went into boxing, right, and have done great things, you know, from Anderson Silva to Francis Ngannou, you know what I mean, that have seen success. And, you know, and I'm not saying, you know, these are, you know, the best in the world that have done it, but at the end of the day, though, there's an avenue for martial artists to go to, you know, after, you know, maybe your UFC career is over. So with that being said, man, who I think gonna win that boxing fight? Canelo or Bud? I'm gonna go with Bud on this one, right? Bud has really shown, you know, that he is pound for pound one of the greats, right, in boxing. And with this challenge that he's, you know, pretty much been hunting after, right? This is a fight that he's been asking for, he's been barking for, right? And he finally got it. I truly believe that Bud can really be a technician in this fight and really kind of show, you know, why he is pound for pound one of the best in the world. But he does have a lethal shooter in front of him. But with that being said, you know, a lot of times Canelo can throw a little bit too wide and a little bit too reckless. And I believe with a person like Bud Crawford, he can find his shot, man, and he can really kind of pinpoint that chin, and he might be able to get Canelo up out of there. So with that being said, man, we're going to ride with Bud Crawford on this one, man, to get the win. But hey, I want to thank y'all for subscribing to, you know, Buck What You Heard. Thank you for listening to my channel. Y'all already know that we're going to be back. I got a open workout that we doing in St. Louis. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that, for an announcement of a date and what time and the location. So I love you guys and I appreciate you. Make sure that y'all lock in and subscribe.